Good afternoon. It's me, Larry, coming to you live from Stevie's room. And today's topic is how to bring a feral cat into your home as an indoor pet. Let me first preface this by saying this is not for everyone. Secondly, it will require some patience. Many YouTube video shorts you have probably seen show a cat that comes in snarling and growling, and then all of a sudden at the end of 30 seconds, it's in the person's lap. They did it. They just didn't tell you how they did it. And I'm going to tell you how I do it. And I can tell you that I have about an 80% success rate of bringing those cats into a middle-aged kitten that have been wild on the outside. And out of the 20% that I feel that I have not been successful, they simply just don't want to be pet. They are still well behaved. They may even bond with other cats. They just don't want you to pet them. And you might say, but I really just wanted it to be a pet. Well, most of the time when people take in a feral cat from outdoors, they're looking to save its life. Or they're looking to bond with it. And they might. And by the way, 80% means the majority are going to give you that pet personality and appreciation. And oh my goodness, the appreciation that comes from a feral cat that has had its life turned around. And remember, they're coming in, and no longer do they have pitch darkness at night. No longer are they subjected to the elements. No longer do they have somebody screaming at it to get away. No longer do they have cars to dodge, or wildlife to contend with, or the dog that's chasing it, or the kid with a BB gun. They don't have any of this anymore. And they feel a comfortable surface to sleep on. And they have a stable climate inside. And they have safety. And it's not saying they can never get hurt in a house. Of course they can. But their risks have been reduced tremendously. Tremendously. With all that being said, whether the cat is friendly on the outside or feral on the outside, when you bring any cat into your house, I don't care if it's from a pet store, a shelter, or this, that initial stage is an adjustment for them. So my suggestion is to put it at least for 5 days in a cage, a medium-sized dog cage. You see it in some of my shorts, where they have a little box that they can sleep in, a little litter box with paper litter inside where they can use, and an area for food. And they feel like this little area is their territory, rather than to just take it and plop it down in your living room. And especially if you have other cats. If you have other cats, I would say it's imperative. This way it has its own territory. It doesn't feel threatened by the other cats. The other cats don't feel threatened by it. They get a chance to look at each other, sniff each other, and adapt to each other before you let it out. And 5 days is just enough time to do the deworming. And before you bring it in, take it to the vet. Get it defleed. Get the deworming medication. Get it tested for FeLV and FIV. See what you're bringing in. And deal with that veterinary preliminary visit. So there is going to be an adjustment. And by the way, I found out the hard way with a friendly cat. It was a friendly cat outside, but it had been traumatized. But it was friendly with me. I remember my first feral cat that I brought in. I put it down in the middle of my living room, and it was friendly on the outside. And all of a sudden, when I put it down, it freaked out. Started running around the house trying to get out the window, knocking everything over. A cage prevents that. And I want to tell you something about that particular cat. He went from that to becoming one of the most loving, up to the heart. My goodness. I miss him every day. He died of cancer at the age of 14. But he was amazing. So just because you may have a bumpy first day doesn't mean don't feel defeated. Okay, we've all been there. The cage helps. Um, and the longest in a cage, well, cat. I had one hit by a car. I needed surgery in 45 days. It wasn't allowed to jump on anything. So we're looking at a range between 5 days to 45 days, approximately. Um, and then you just fold up the cage and you have it for the next one you bring in. Because you're going to, once you do this, it's like a snowball. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. That being said, um, the real transition is going to be the first time that you pet it, and you have to pick that moment. It's you're a little nervous, the cat's a little nervous, almost like that first kiss, but it's like you want to be respectful. The cat also wants to be respectful. Obviously it's there with you and you're there, and it's just, how do you do this? Well, don't go frontal where it sees the hand coming in. There are two ways that I find is the best way to do that first pet. Either when it's eating, or it's sort of distracted and it's standing so it can run away, and you pet it from above, like above and behind. Um, or I did the one with the kitten where he was sitting in a chair, half awake, half asleep. They're half awake, half asleep, like they just woke up and they're totally relaxed. And not from the front. You make eye contact and you go in from the front, it's going to feel threatened by that. But from the back. And when you pet it, it might flinch. That's normal. It may run. That means it'll be a little harder. But if you notice in that video with the kitten, he flinched a little, but then he said, And I kept petting him more and more. And don't overdo it. And by the way, if you pet him the first time and then on the second time he's not receptive, don't feel defeated. It may be the fact that you did it once, you're going to do it again. Don't it's not, you're really not trying to be goal oriented with this. You have the rest of your life. And by the way, the cat that was not out of that 20% that you may not have been successful with, you'd be surprised. They get sick when they're older, and all of a sudden you might say, geez, letting me bathe it. And you might feel like, well, we wasted all this time. No, you didn't. You saved its life. I can tell you that these 14-year-old cats, 15-year-old cats that I have in the house, some of them have family on the outside that are long gone. And what about the 14-year-old cat that lives outside? There have been, I have some of those in my feral colonies. They have dodged a lot of things and a lot of adversity that you've spared the indoor cat from. And the freezing cold night, the rainstorm, the hurricane. Yes, hurricane. And some of them perish in some of these events. So indoors, I'm not saying you can't perish in a hurricane in the house, but you really do have. And I'm going to tell you that animals in a house during a natural disaster are something that, once upon a time when I had none, I used to get on a plane and leave. I had no reason to stay here. Got out of here. My life was more important than anything. I'd get on a plane and go far. Well, with cats that I'm committed to, I stay. So this is a commitment, and you wonder, well, what if the house is destroyed? You really think about all these things. They would have to go back to being feral, maybe, and you wouldn't want that. The house is level to the ground. But so far so good. Made it through all of this. Let's hope this summer, hurricane season coming up in May. Living in Miami, I feel like a bowling pin. We think about all these things. Their little safety net. And I'm going to tell you that during the storm, we're all sitting there, and all of a sudden, these feral cats and you're like one unit here. You're on the same team. So, look, good luck in this. Be safe, be well, And thanks for listening.